name is Bobola Ajibola, Welfare and Diversity Officer, University of Gloucestershire Students' Union. The awarding gap remains a significant challenge within higher education, disproportionately affecting students from Black, Asian, and ethnic minority groups. The data gathered on this issue reflects student experiences, concerns, and expectations on how they want this gap to be closed. Addressing this disparity requires a collective commitment from students, staff, and the wider academic community. The National Union of Students, NUS, found that feelings of discomfort, boredom, isolation, and a sense of not belonging negatively influence academic performance, further aggravating the awarding gap. These factors must be taken into account as we work to improve the academic environment for all students. To create meaningful change, we must scrutinize and reevaluate the decisions that impact students, ensuring they are made with student voices at the forefront. This includes fostering an inclusive academic environment, enhancing student support, embedding equity in teaching and assessment practices, and ensuring a more diverse representative staff body. A workforce that reflects the student population fosters belonging, provides relatable role models, and contributes a more inclusive and culturally competent teaching. By prioritizing collaboration, implementing targeted interventions, and holding ourselves accountable, we can work towards closing the awarding gap and building a fairer, more inclusive university experience for all. Thank you.
Hi, Luna.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. And before we jump into questions, I would like to know you, your name, and then your course and your level.
So my name's Leona Mignoro. I do accounting and business management, and I'm in my third year.
Okay, so Leona, where are you from, and how long have you been in the University of Gloucestershire?
So I'm from Aberdeen, Scotland, and I've been at Uni of Gloucester for 3 years.
Great. So to go on the first question, what does the term awarding gap mean to you, and how will you describe its impact?
So the term awarding gap to me, I would say, is the differentiation between different degree classes, but it's based on socioeconomic backgrounds, cultures, beliefs, race. I'd say all those kind of differences, which all impact what kind of degree that someone might get at the end of their university time.
Great, thank you. Going to the second questions, what impact do you think having a diverse faculty and staff will have on closing the awarding gap?
I feel like it would have a big impact because you can at least find someone that you can relate to, someone you can talk to, and they'll understand what you're trying to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's important to have someone like that because then they can help you and you can get the help you probably need to get the achievement and the proper high-end work that you're wanting to look for.
Great, and that is even still extended to other departments like the Ed Zone, now the Student Center, and then the reception, having a diverse phase and different set of people operating in those areas, make students feel comfortable to approach them the more. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I feel like it should be all stuff, so not just lectures. But yeah, like you said, reception, because that's the face that you see when you walk into the building.
Mm-hmm.
Help zone, because that's when you go, especially if you need help for anything. Just all members of staff throughout the whole university, I would say it's important for diversity all over.
So, to the last question, Leona, what kind of financial support or scholarships do you think could help reduce the awarding gap?
So I feel like any type of aid, money, finance aiding schemes. So like you said, scholarships, potentially bursaries, loans. I feel like that would be especially helpful for non-home type of students. So for example, international students, if they come over here and they don't have the proper finances or they don't have enough finances to actually be at uni here, they might be stressing too much about money instead of the actual course. which can then lead to them not doing as well like in the final degree. So I feel like if they have something like a scholarship or even just like a loan, they can work. They can only focus on their uni work and don't need to worry about, oh, can I afford to be here? Am I going to be able to like finish my studies here? Because then they're not going to be having their full attention on the important thing, which is what they came here to do. So I feel like just any type of money aid will help the overall outcome of them, because they'll be able to focus and study without any like extra stress.
So you mean having a dedicated support fund for students during their studies will also help their academic achievements?
Yeah, I feel like that would make a very big difference.
Okay. Thank you. So finally, do you have any other thing to mention, or maybe your stories, or provide an insight about awarding gap and how you think the university can further close the awarding gap? Do you have any personal, stories as regards these, where you have come about, diverse inclusivity, or gap not being closed as expected, and you want us to further close it?
Well, to be honest, I feel like University of Gloucestershire has been doing very well with closing the awarding gap. Just because whenever like I'm in my classes, just walking around the university, the amount of staff I'm seeing from different cultures, different backgrounds, like there's no one who's the same. And I feel like that's really beneficial, and that's what the whole point of trying to close the awarding gap is trying to do. So I feel like Uni of Gloucester is doing really well in regards to the staff they're hiring and the different diversity of people and cultures, because there's always someone that can relate to a lecture or just any member of staff they need to go to help for. And I think that's really important. They're making it aware as well at this uni, I've noticed. Like literally, by doing this, we're getting the word out, getting people more aware of it. And the more people are aware of it is how we're going to help solve the issue. So I feel like that's a very big part of it, which I think is all very important. And yeah, story-wise, I'm trying to think. Myself personally, well, I've had a few instances where I'm in class because, and it's funny because like, even though Scotland and England, it's in the UK still, but there's still so many like small differences I never realized until I actually came here for uni. So I'll be in class and we'll be talking about something, and she'll be giving, like the lecturer will be giving examples and different stuff like that, and I'm just not sure what's going on. Like I'll be confused because I don't understand any of the examples, I don't know any of these businesses, I don't know what she would be talking about. But I'm thankful that there are enough staff members for me to go up to class and be like, hey, I'm not sure what you mean by these, can you please explain? And then I can have someone else who can, for example, there's a lecturer who's actually been to Scotland a few times and like, oh yeah, that would be equivalent to this for you. And they've kind of translated it for me in a way. And I think that's been very helpful because I actually know what I'm writing about now, I'm not as confused.
Good. So outside the academics, I know you also participate in the sporting activities.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any gap that needs to be closed? Is it fully inclusive to your own idea?
I mean, our sport is, for badminton, I'd say, we are inclusive. It's hard to tell though because as well, I've noticed that for badminton, it is a lot of the same type of culture and background people. But we do also, obviously, we welcome out people who are non-local students and stuff like that. But it's more special, I'd say, at, for example, Open Day. That's our one day to show the inclusivity. That's the time where we like to get everyone on board. We like to get everyone at the stalls. Not everyone looks the same. We like to show the diversity within our stalls. And that's the best we've tried to do at the minute. And I say honestly, it worked. It has worked because this year we've had a lot of different people from different cultures, different backgrounds coming into badminton. And it's been very nice to see personally, as a Black person as well. I love to see people who are my people coming into my sport who weren't here last year. So I would say that sporting wise as well, the gap's been closed, or it's being closed. And it's just a nice feeling, nice to see.
Yeah, great. Happy to hear that. So thank you so much, Leona, for participating in this bridging the awarding gap campaign, closing the awarding gap campaign, and we're happy to see you, and we're hopeful that this is going to help this campaign a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
What does the term awarding gap mean to you, and how would you describe its impact?
I think it's just the impact of different factors in the person's life affecting how these type of people can achieve what these kind of people can achieve. That's usually not their own fault. So as a result, I guess the wider impact could just be some people unfairly or unfortunately not being able to achieve their highest possible, I guess, goals, simply based on factors that aren't fully in their control. So.
Great. Thank you. So, to the second question, how do you think students' socioeconomic backgrounds affect their academic outcomes?
I mean, I think it's pretty telling. Like if you have to go to a job to fund your lifestyle, to fund, just being on the course, it's going to be inevitably more harder than if you have someone to plan that for you. Also, like the stress and worry of like, do I have rent? Do I have this? Can definitely take away from the work. Even just work. Even I don't have to worry too much about that, but the work's stressful enough already. So I can imagine that having a big impact.
Great. So to the last question, what types of support do you think should be implemented to reduce the awarding gap, especially in University of Gloucestershire?
I'm not completely sure, but one thing I was thinking of is just that the lack of, I guess, communities or like places where people can continually be in touch with each other and support each other. I think that's kind of lacking sometimes, that kind of like community. I don't know whether that's something the university can solve per se, but I think having your support groups of people who can help you throughout the course, which is really tough, would be helpful. Whether or not that's something the uni can do, I don't know.
Great. Thank you so much, Abiola. And should have done this first. So, Abiola, can I ask your name, what course you're studying, and which country are you from? How long have you been in the UK? And where you live? Just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Abiola Falabi, and I was born in Nigeria, but I've lived here most of my life. I left when I was like 5. So, yeah, and I studied graphic design.
Great. So you live in Cheltenham or Gloucester?
I'm based around London.
So how long have you been in the UK?
Maybe like 13 years. So most of my life is good.
Great. Thank you so much. Great. What does the term awarding gap mean to you, and how would you describe its impact?
The term awarding gap is quite special to me because I think it puts an emphasis on the systemic inequalities of how higher education works, instead of, suppose, the perceived shortcomings of a student or a pupil. And as far as I understand, the term awarding gap puts an emphasis on certain students attaining degrees with better grades and more awards as compared to other students, and there seems to be a sort of pattern to it.
Good, thank you. So, and to the second question, how do you think assessment methods, exam, coursework, or presentations contribute to the awarding gap?
I think certain subjects are heavy on, for example, essays, whereas others are heavy on like multiple choice questions, or for example, my course is very heavy on practical work for film production. So I think certain students do better with certain methods. So I think it might be important for subjects to include a variety of assessment materials so that every student gets a fair chance at showing their lecturers their work and findings in a way that suits them.
Right. So, to the last question, of course, we haven't anything to add. We can also add to this. What's one thing the university, especially University of Gloucestershire, could start doing right now
that will make a meaningful difference in bridging the awarding gap?
I think generally the University of Gloucestershire is very good at with enjoying lecturers and with students of various backgrounds and diverse cultures. So I suppose perhaps they could focus on hiring lecturers that have had experience not just in their own country or hometown, but also with a variety of other students previously, and maybe in different countries or cities. So maybe lecturers that have moved around quite a bit.
A diverse set of staffs, diverse lecturers especially. It's very good. Thank you so much, Khadija, for your time. We appreciate it.
Can you run us through what you do, your position in the university, and how long you've been here, if possible?
Sure.
Your nationality, the course you studied here at University of Gloucestershire, and in general, comprehensively what you do, who you are.
Well, my name's Kit Bolting-Hodge. I'm currently the Education and Community Officer at the University of Gloucestershire's Students' Union. In this role, I've been here since July, this 1st of July, with a couple of weeks handover, but I've been at this university 3 years prior to that. I studied history and politics, and I'm a mix between Black Caribbean and white. I grew up in this area called Nuneaton, although I was born in London, which is 20 minutes away from Coventry, kind of in the middle between Birmingham, Leicester and Coventry. So I haven't grown up in a particularly well-educated area, for sure.
Cool, thank you so much, Keith. So just going through the questions, the first question is, what does the term awarding gap mean to you, and how will you describe its impact?
Well, with my role, I'm obviously the procedural clink and clunk, so I deal with the awarding gap quite a lot as education officer. To me, it means how different groups or characteristics interact with different types of assessments, and overall how they do and how well they perform. I think that we have a very diverse set of students at this university, and therefore our assessments and our teaching provisions should also reflect and match this. That is one way that we can address the awarding gap.
Cool, thank you. So going to the second question, what factors do you think contribute most significantly to the awarding gap at this university?
Well, I think that we have a high level of international students, and I think we have a really wide set of students domestically as well, from home learners to high levels of neurodiversity, high levels of disability access. And this means, because it's so wide and such different starting points, it's really hard to create one consistent journey. And one thing I've been advocating for is that we need to personalise and tailor to each individual character, because we're all different. So I would say that's the biggest cause. There's a couple of smaller things like personal bias, for example, or inconsistent support in different courses. And that means the more naturally gifted students will perform better. So there's a problem with consistency there, I'd say.
Great. So, and to the final question, what do you think can be done to ensure that the awarding gap is not just talked about? Because I understand that a lot of people have passion, for awarding gap, but they just talk about it. So how do you think it's not just talked about, but actively addressed and reduced?
Well, I can speak from my role personally. As I said, I'm the clink and clunk. It's that policy. So in order to, you have two different ways of getting there. First is the policy, and then it's the implementation. First, we must have robust and diverse policies that mean that lecturers have the autonomy to tailor and make their course based on intake analytics more suited to their cohort. But then there's the practice and implementation side, and that is addressing those inconsistencies. That's addressing that personal bias that I was talking about in the last question. So it's a two-pronged measure, and I think we do have things that we're trying to do in terms of policy, like we have an awarding gap steering group, and hopefully with the curriculum transformation project that's currently undergoing, we should be able to tackle that inconsistency. So I think all things are being worked towards, but you're right, we need to progress from conversations into actual action. And that'll become quicker now the executives have taken over.
Cool.
Cut that last part out. Don't talk about the executive taking over. I should not have said that. Take that last part out, please.
Okay, so anyways, that was supposed to be the last question, but just because of the actions that you actually mentioned, I would like to, take us to another universities. I understand that awarding gap is not just an issue for one university alone. It's a general thing for universities across the country, and I just wanted to ask, have you noticed any changes in the university's approach to closing the awarding gap in recent years? If so, what are they? This is not. This can be other universities that you've noticed, and this can be these universities just trying to pick knowledge and how other universities have been able to do it, and if not, if there's something we have actually put in place to further look into this. This is just like a general thing, and you can also close it up from there like that.
Now, the awarding gap has been around far longer than me and you have been in education for. The awarding gap has never really relented. I think we've seen a widening of the awarding gap over the recent years, and hence it's became to prominence. The change that I've noticed is that there is more collaboration between universities because the problems tend to be quite similar. What this means, information sharing means that we can get best practice. What do you think my solution is, and what I think is the best? We should co-create with students solutions that work for them. And not only current students, we should bring in the alumni. These are the people that have been through the experience all 3 years and seen more of a diversity in their own classes to what current students have. So we can see what the practice is from previous cohorts and see what we can apply and what's not so relevant, so that we can take the lessons from that. Does that help?
Yeah, cool. On a final note, is there anything you want to add?
Well, I would like to note that the awarding gap does not have just one important thing. So, for example, neurodiversity and intersectionality is such a huge part to play. So, if you look at neurodiversity, or you look at the BAME community, or look at as individuals, you see a gap. But when you see multiple elements interact, that's when you get the real concerning things. You get the ones that don't achieve as much as they should, and it's not because they aren't intelligent, it's not because they aren't bright, it's because we don't have that personalised support and that individual plan for those students. So when you hear the awarding gap, if you listen to this, don't just think of one particular group. It's all interconnected, and it all has to be addressed together.
Great. Thank you so much. I like how you actually closed it, that it's interconnected and it has to be closed together. And I look forward to how we can work with various universities, especially the execs, to close this gap and make sure that we bridge the gap, because that can bring that to bridging the awarding gap for sure. So thank you so much for attending, kids. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.